none of it is going to be easy. Maybe you think that you see people who are on their master's program or PhD program that are overseas. They seem like they're super happy with all their vacation pics. All of those are lies, guys. I'm telling you, those are all lies. Because in fact, you will still have challenges anywhere you go, and therefore, it's really important that you consistently ask yourself these three questions, wherever you are, whatever you do. One, ask yourself, why are you even there? Why are you even here? Let's say you're in the middle of nowhere and you're working for a service company and you're working, maybe pulling a 48-hour shift and you haven't slept for 2 full days. Ask yourself, why are you there? Is it for the experience? Is it for the money? And be honest with yourself. And there is no right or wrong answer, right? And oftentimes, the second question you should ask yourself is, like, are you doing this for yourself or is it for someone else's approval? Let's say you pursue higher education, you being a female, for instance, and then you work with a professor for your master's program, and apparently your professor is a bully. And then, actually, this is my story. My professor was a bully, and he was actually a female. And you would thought that being a female in a very difficult male-dominated world, even even at schools, right, the proportion of percentage of females are much less than males. You would thought that your female counterpart, your female boss, would have more empathy for you, but life doesn't work that way, right? And for me back then, when I was doing my master's, when I did not enjoy it at all, and I was working for my professor, literally the reason why I stuck through it and pursued it and finished it up until the end is because I was sponsored. I had to, right? There are cases where you don't have a choice and you just have to do it and you have to pursue and finish through. But at the very least, ask yourself the last question, right? Are you still surrounding yourself with people smarter than you? Which essentially means, look, are you learning at all? Or are you just like wasting your freaking time? And at some point, you will realize that all of the misery and all the challenges that you face, being a female or being a male, it doesn't, it's not worth it anymore if you're not learning anything from it. This reminds me of a case that I had this year as well. I was working for another client that was really, really challenging. And we were basically compiling their 5-year business plan. And I was working with a manager who was just very, very hard to work with. The project was like a 3-month period, but approaching the end, we had to shift a bit the team configuration, and I ended up working with someone who is very much just very difficult to work with. And then I felt at the time, given that I was already pulling like long hours every day, I at the same time I wasn't learning anything. This person did not really coach me well. He was not really a good mentor, and he's a bit he's very direct with his jokes, and which made me a bit uncomfortable sometimes being a female. And so I decided, because I'm not learning anymore from this guy, I decided to escalate that to an even higher boss of that project, like the guy who has the final say of the damn project. And then I was just I was honest to that person and said, look, I think I have delivered what I came here to do. I think I have delivered my role here, but I think I'm no longer learning from this person. And so I ask you that, can you please remove me from this project? And then the answer was yes. And so one thing is, for me, consistently asking these questions actually made me realize, like, what is my purpose? And like, why am I still there? And why am I still working so hard? And also it made me have the inclination to kind of escalate and try to solve the problems that I have in front of me, right? At the time, the problem was like, I'm not learning anything. And so I solved it by escalating to the leadership, to the network of people that have a say in things. And so with that in mind, it's actually a good segue to the last lesson that I would like to share today, which is about finding your network of support. And I think across all of the things that I've described to you guys, all of those are very, very wishy-washy, I know. It may be not super tangible, but this last lesson is like, I think is very, very important, and that you guys have to remember wherever you are, even starting now when you are in college. One, a network of support is important, right? Because we are a social creature, and we live in a social construct of an organization. And for you to move forward, some form of support is required. And for me, what I've learned is there are two types of support that you can get from people around you. One is mentorship, and the second is sponsorship. And these two things are different. They're almost the same, but they diverge at some point, right? One where they are common is these mentor and sponsors. They're both your sounding board. They're both your advisors. So think of it as like when you talk to your upperclassmen and then ask for their advice. That's a form of mentorship, right? But then the kind of solution that they can offer would be different between a mentor and a sponsor. So, okay, first of all, one, about the sounding board, it means that you're comfortable and you have a trust-based relationship with these people. And actually, for you to have that relationship, it takes some effort as well. And so you as a student now and later on when you work and going through your career, it's important for you to take an effort to cultivate the relationship that you have with that network of people around you. And then you will realize who are the people who can be your mentor and sponsors. Now, once you are comfortable, once you have them within your network of support, you can tell based on what things that they can offer you. So your mentor can only give you, to a certain extent, their advice and feedback as a fellow peer. They will guide you, give you advices, listen to you and all of that. But a sponsor will create some opportunity for you. So maybe for a simple example, let's say that currently you're a staff in the SPE student chapter in your school, in your college. Then you join like one of the divisions, and obviously one division will have one leader and then the staff around them, right? It's a team. It's a teamwork. It's a team after all. Now, when maybe your peers can be your mentor, but then maybe the head of that division could be your sponsor. And the way you could tell that is like if let's say that you guys work together for some time, and then that head of that division starts to offer you opportunity to lead an event, for instance, for opportunity for you to like manage an event. Now that could be a potential sponsor for you because that person creates opportunity for you, right? And similarly in a working context, maybe then you work as an engineer, or maybe you work as, like in my case, I started as an analyst in a consulting firm, right? The way it works, like we go on multiple like different client projects, right? And oftentimes the duration can vary from 1 month to like a year, for instance. And a sponsor will be the people who are actively giving you opportunity to go to multiple projects. So, and it's great because you learn a lot from these kind of opportunities. They may not be easy, but you will learn a lot. And then lastly, which is why it's important to understand, usually mentors can be anyone at any level, but then your sponsor would probably be more ideal if they're more senior than you, because people who are more senior than you would be able to have that power to kind of create opportunity for you and also bang the table for you when it's required, right? And so lastly, therefore, with all of these in mind, it's important for you to remind yourself that for you to find your mentor and sponsors, it requires you to ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness, honestly. Sometimes we have that little timidness when we have a discussion with people or when we work with people. There's a slight tendency for us to have that sense of pride to not ask for help. And so I ask you to please like shed that pride and just be honest that especially when you start joining like a new organization, take that for your full advantage, man. Like I cannot stress that enough. Like when you go to your first job, they don't expect you to know what to do in your day one. They expect you to ask questions and ask for help. And then the second thing that you need to remember is your network of support should not be limited by the gender, by the race, or whatever. sometimes as a female, I'm sharing from my past experience. I had my own tendency to be more be more open, and be more comfortable with my fellow female. But apparently, that's not really the case, right? You're not, your support, your sponsors can be anyone. Right now, if I think back, the people who have shown sponsorship to me, majority of them are actually male, and which really tells you that there are, you as a female, there are other male people, like male around you, who actually care for the success of their female colleagues, and such that you need to leverage and be more open to these kind of relationship with your male counterparts. And then lastly, you know, like it or not, maybe you're a bit shy about it, but you need to remind yourself that the influence of your sponsors and your mentors are actually required for you to move forward in an organization. Um, may that be very, you know, tactically speaking, it could be about promotion, it could be about opportunities and your organization. But literally, the more you cultivate that trust-based relationship with your mentor and sponsors, the more you will benefit in your career, or in whatever it is that you want to do in that organization. So all three lessons aside, I think lastly is, I just wanted to close like my session right now by, I guess, sharing with you like a little phrase that I really, really like from Dr. Maya Angelou, which just reminds me about like in the my past like in the past years that I started to build my career at McKinsey. It has not been easy, and it just, this just reminds me of how far your tenacity can bring you. And me being a female in a very male dominated world, you know, people think that consulting is majority female, like it's more balanced, but it's not. Let's just be real. A lot of the male leaders in any organization, sorry, a lot of the leaders in many organizations are still male dominated. And therefore they have this disadvantage because you have less people to look up to, you have less people to follow, and less people who have paved the way for you. And therefore, just remind yourself as a female, or whoever you are, as a male even, that it's important to have that resilience as you build your career going forward, and just push through. So yeah, those are about the things that I wanted to say and kind of share with you guys. Really, thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry if I'm not making any sense or my advice were just too wishy-washy for y'all, but I hope at least a little bit of my story can help you as you move on in your college, or you start to find your first few steps in your career. Thank you. And I'll give the floor back to Gita.
Okay, Kak Sonia, thank you so much for a very insightful, honest, and I think Kak Sonia's talk is really representative for the condition of women and men professional relationship in the workplace, and especially in this oil and gas industry, because I do agree that um, a lot of times a women have hard feeling to say no. A lot, we are sometimes filled with a lot of insecurities and not brave enough to speak up our opinions because we are afraid to be perceived as incompetent sometimes. And I think Kak Gladys' talk really provides us with a lot of so many practical advices about how to be successful in the workplace as a woman. And thank you, Kak Sonia, for the talk. And we are going to enter our second speaker talk for this session, Women in the Workplace. So our second speaker is Kak Gladys Elvira Wiranata. She pursued her education in petroleum engineering from Institut Teknologi Bandung 2015, and she was also assistant reservoir and engineer in Pertamina, and then now she is a drilling and measurement field engineer in Schlumberger. And for next, okay, can you go next? And this is the education background of Kak Gladys. And for achievement, she was the first winner of Petrosmart competition in EATME Energy Youth Challenge. And she earned award for outstanding academic achievement at undergraduate program. And for the organization, she was the head of Extra Campus and Alumni Relation Division, or HEXA, in HMT 4 ITB. And she was also the head of entrepreneurship division of EHA Faganza for 8 EHA Radio ITB. Next. Okay, so for Kak Gladys, the time is yours, Kak. Hello, Kak.
Hi, thank you, Gita, for the introduction. So, hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank SPITB Student Chapter for having me today. And today I'm going to share my experience as a woman who's working in the field. But before I go any further, I'm probably gonna quick recap of my introduction. So my name is Gladys Alvira Wiranata. I was born and raised in East Borneo before I moved to Malang for my senior high school and then pursue my bachelor degree in Institut Teknologi Bandung. Well, I graduated back in 2015 from Petroleum Engineering ITB, and right after my graduation, I joined Pertamina as assistant and reservoir engineer for several months, and then I decided to join Schlumberger back in 2016 in drilling and measurement segment. Well, as you can see that I spent around 3 years working in the field, studies when I was a trainee, until I became a senior field engineer for Schlumberger. And finally, early this year, I'm working as a remote operation engineer in the Wisma Mulia building. And I think that's all about me. Yeah, can you go next? So after this, I'll discuss the challenges that I was facing during my career as a female engineer. But before I do that, I actually want to hear any opinions from you about what do you think the hardship that you'll find during your time in the rig site, or maybe what do you think about the field engineer work as a female engineer. So probably 2 or 3 participants, if I allow. Can I hear like any opinions? So later on, I'll clarify those opinions for you, whether that one is valid or not. I mean, can you really experience those kind of opinion in the rig side or not?
So for anyone who wants to share their opinions. Anybody? Okay, Kak, maybe I would like to share my opinion about the woman. So the question was the woman in rig site ya, Kak ya?
Yeah.
Oh, ini Kak, ada dari Monica Muku. Kalau dari pengalaman saya, kadang senior di perusahaannya, Kak, yang menganjurkan untuk tidak ke field.
Okay. So one of them is probably because of the suggestion from the senior. Okay, let me write it down.
Anyone else? You can share your opinion in the chat room, like Kak Monica. And ini Kak, kalau dari aku sendiri, aku punya pemikiran kalau misalnya wanita di rig site itu kadang-kadang tidak diperbolehkan untuk melakukan pekerjaan yang dilakukan sama laki-laki juga, gitu. Dengan alasan karena kita perempuan, tidak biasa melakukan pekerjaan itu, gitu.
Alright.
Mungkin ada yang lain?
I think.
Atau cukup, Kak?
Okay, it's alright.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the opinion. I'll come back to those opinion later probably once I cover this topic, yeah. So let me tell you about the challenges that I encounter, and maybe those challenges that I will mention, it's not specifically related with certain gender, but I'll give you a probable example. So the first one that you already can see in the screen is the heavy work. Working as an engineer for Schlumberger doesn't mean that you will work behind the desk at all time. It is depending on the job description or the segment that you're into. And as mentioned earlier, I'm working as a drilling and measurement segment, which also means that I have 50% of physical work or hands-on work, and another 15% for the behind the desk tasks. Particularly in my segment, I have the responsibility to prepare my tools before it goes in hole. And by preparing my tools, I have to do it by getting my hands dirty. Well, it probably be hard for women, but trust me, working in the field is identical with the teamwork. You will not be alone and you can ask for help from your teammate. But again, do not expect to just sitting around behind the desk. And I think this one is covering your opinion before that you mentioned that women not allowed to work as the male work, but actually in the field side you can and you have to work like you have the same job description. You're allowed to do your job as long as you can convince people that you are able to do your job properly. So in the picture here, you can see that there's another woman working with the pipe tongue. So she's pulling the pipe tongue. So yeah, you if you're working as an engineer, you're probably not gonna do this, but this is something that maybe you can do if you have the job description to do it. So can you press on next? Okay, the second one is about remote location. We all know that it is rarely happen that you will drill a well in the middle of the housing area. So it is common to work where the mall has not even built yet, not even mall. Sometimes you cannot find a mini market around the corner. There are several locations that I've been to, such as the land rig in the suburbs, land rig in the middle of the jungle, and of course the famous offshore rig in the middle of the sea. As you can imagine, working in those kind of location will give huge impact on the connectivity or the signal reception. It might be hard to get stable connection for days, especially if there is a weather issue or bad weather such as thunder or storm. On the bright side, working in the remote location can transform yourself to someone who actually appreciates the nature more. You can probably find the untouchable beach where the water is still crystal clear around you, and so on. I actually cannot see the slides anymore.
Can you see the slide now, Kak?
No. Can you see? I mean, if you can see, actually, I can just move forward. All right.
Okay.
The third one is about the on-call schedule. So this is actually differs from one company to another company, but based on my personal experience, I found it very hard to make any plans because of this. So my work schedule was depending on the operation. Sometimes if the operation got delayed, I'll get more days off compared to the plan. But on the other hand, if the operation started earlier than the plan, which also means that I'll have less days off compared to the plan. However, the company usually grant you certain amount of vacation days that you can take, and it is guaranteed that they will not disturb your plan, but this is actually something to be considered about. The next one, it's about the living condition. Yep. So this is highly related with the second factor on the remote location. Because of staying in one place temporarily, they usually provide you with the minimum standard room. So do not expect to get a 5-star standard hotel room, but imagine yourself get a 20-feet cabin with one or more bunk beds in it and a shared bathroom that will be your place to stay during your job. And again, offshore and land rig usually offer different experience, and overall, offshore rig usually give you more comfortable room compared to the land rig. But in the land rig, they usually allow you to stroll around the nearest store to ensure the clarity of mind, which you cannot do in the offshore because of its limited space. But you can jog in the gym area or helipad. And of course, being a woman, this concerns us a lot, but you'll get used to this kind of situation as you only need those kind of room for resting. The next one, it's about the working hour. So not like proper working hour, which start from 8 a.m. and end at 5 p.m. or more if you decided to work overtime, but working in the field usually require us to work at least 12 hours a day. So you have to make sure that you have enough stamina and rest every day. And on the positive side, those 12 hours is already included the traffic from the living quarter to the working area. The next one, it's about the harassment. Yep, this is very sensitive yet important things to consider. As you all aware of, you probably be the only woman working in the rig site surrounded by other 50 or more male engineers from other companies. And harassment is prone to happen during this kind of situation. But you don't need to worry about it, as for now, most of the company already have their own strict policy regarding this issue. And if you're facing an inappropriate act or even verbal harassment in the workplace, you can easily report it to your direct supervisor or even the well site leader in the rig site. And the last but not least, it's about the personal concern. I put this factor to cover other factors that I haven't mentioned above. So if you have any concern about working in the field, you can raise it to your supervisor. For example, during coronavirus like this, you prefer to stay at home than working in the field. You can discuss it with your manager and both of you might come with a solution. Or maybe another example is about the health issue. In case you have certain condition that require you to be close with the hospital at all time, then probably working close in the land rig, close to the suburbs is more suitable for you to accommodate your condition. And again, all of this only can happen if you let your manager aware about your concern. So make sure that you let your manager know about anything that you have in mind before you go to the rig site, because you already know what to expect in the rig site. Once you overcome those challenges, your presence also bring advantages to the company. Can you press next? Because as a minority, you can think differently from most of the people. And then you can bring more innovation for the sake of the company. And of course, all women are well known for our sensitive side, which based on research will result in more engaging conversation with the workmate. But those are the advantages for the company. But what is it really the benefit for a female field engineer compared to the male engineer? Do you think that we will get special treatment on the rig side? Well, apparently it is not happening that way. There is no special treatment based on gender, and all of us have to work professionally even in the rig site without any gender-specific treatment. And just to cover about the second opinion that I got, you mentioned that probably your supervisor will not suggest you to go to the rig site, but I think it all depends on the need, right? In case you think, in case your supervisor think that you need more exposure to learn about the operation in the rig site, or you can convince them there is no additional support needed to support yourself in the rig site, probably they will allow you. But during my time, I have no rejection about myself going to the rig site, especially from my supervisor. Well, the last thing, can you press on next? Well, as someone already been in the industry for quite a short period of time of 4 years, here are the tricks that I think that will help you during your career. The first one, find yourself a mentor. Actually, this is quite similar with the one that Sonia mentioned above. Well, your mentor can be someone who already walked the same path as yours. He or she will help you to adapt and overcome any issue during early your career. The second one, it's about planning your goal. Actually, this is similar as well with the lesson that Sonia mentioned earlier. I know that planning a goal is actually the hardest thing to do when you just join the company and then you have to think that what you want to do next. But by planning your goal, you can easily prepare and choose the tasks that will help to support your goal. For example, if your goal is to work as a manager, then you better expose yourself with the managerial tasks. Or maybe if you want to be a subject matter expert or the expert in the technical field, you can actually ask for more training or assignment in a rare and difficult job that require a high technical skill. The next one, it's about asking for feedback. So no need to hesitate to ask for feedback as we are all human who always make mistakes. Getting feedback from your boss or colleagues will prevent you to repeat the same mistake all over again. So actually this is a very good practice to learn during your career. And the next one is about building your network. Well, I believe you already understand that oil and gas is a very small industry. You'll end up finding the same people to work with again and again. The same person can be your future boss or future client or maybe your teammate in the future. So make sure to leave the best impression at all time. And the last one is take on the new challenge. You can upgrade your own skill as your personal development plan. And these challenges actually will help you to prevent yourself from getting bored of your current job. Well, actually, this is the end of my slides. Thank you for listening. If you have any question or feedback, please let me know and I'll try my best to answer it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kak Gladys. Yes, for those who have questions, we are going to have a question and answer session at the end of the session too. But if you have any opinion or questions right now, you can give your question on the chat room. But we are going to answer your questions later in the question and answer session. Okay, Kak Gladys, so thank you for the talk about the woman in the workplace, especially in the field, because yes, all of the challenges, well, actually, Kak, a lot of women, especially in petroleum engineering, a lot of women really want to work out in the field, but sometimes we are very lack of the idea of the challenges that are actually happening in the field. And all of the challenges that Gladys already explained seem really hard, not even for the men, not even for the woman, but for men as well. But again, I do agree with Gladys that the advantage of the presence of female field engineer in the field is the diversity of the innovation and communications in terms of decision making, and also because the diversity of the gender, the presence of women and men in the work field gives us a lot of diverse point of views in decision making as well. And thank you, Kak Gladys. We are going to have question and answer at the end of the session too. And next, we are entering our session 2. And can you go next? Okay, so in here, we are going to have Kak Yunita Diah. She is a reservoir engineer at Premier Oil, and she pursued her education in Institut Teknologi Bandung, Bachelor of Petroleum Engineering, and she went to a senior high school, senior high school in Jakarta, and she went to 3 organizations when she was in Institut Teknologi Bandung. The first one is HMT 4 ITB, or Petroleum Engineering Student Association. The second one is Society of Petroleum Engineers, or SPITBSE. And the third one is Student Film League, or LFM ITB. Okay, this is the experience of Kak Yunita Diah. So the first one, she was lecturer assistant. In here, she was lecturer assistant for a lot of subjects in Institut Teknologi Bandung. And she has experience in BP as she did her reservoir simulation thesis in BP and as a petroleum engineering as well, and more work experience from Kak Yunita. The first one is reservoir engineer at Energi Mega Persada, assistant reservoir engineer at Pertamina EP Aset 1 Jambi Field, reservoir engineering at Inpex, and also now she serves as the reservoir engineer at Premier Oil. So next. Okay. So for your information, our session 2 is about managing time between career, social relationship, and family. Because as we know that Kak Yunita Diah already has family, and she's still working as a reservoir engineer in Premier Oil, and she is also known as a very active member of Alumni Association of Petroleum Engineering ITB. And for Kak Yunita, are you there, Kak Yunita?
Oh iya dong.
Okay. So Kak Yunita, the time is yours.
Oke, terima kasih Gita.
Sama Kak.
Suaranya jelas ya?
Jelas Kak, jelas.
Oke. Saya pakai bahasa Indonesia campur-campur kali ya,
Iya, nggak apa-apa Kak.
biar masuk semuanya. Sebelumnya saya terima kasih sama teman-teman SPI sudah bikin acara ini, mengundang saya untuk sharing session. Di sini juga saya terima kasih pada hadirin. Ada bos saya juga di sini, Pak Sukerim. Ada suami saya, teman-teman saya. Pokoknya saya melihat 2 presentasi sebelumnya itu sangat senang ya, melihat teman-teman perempuan tuh sudah banyak tertarik di bidang keteknikan, berkarya, dan sukses di sana gitu ya. Kalau saya boleh cerita sedikit, waktu zaman saya kuliah tahun 2002 ya, anak minyak itu ada 7 dari 60 siswa. Anak mesin itu ada 2 perempuan dari 147 mahasiswa. Material 3 dari 60 mahasiswa. Jadi maksudnya makin kesini kayaknya makin banyak perempuan di bidang keteknikan, di bidang laki-laki, dan saya yakin kita pasti bisa saling berkompetisi secara sehat ya. Cuma wanita itu kan eventually bakal menikah, punya anak dan berkeluarga ya. Dan eventually juga mereka pasti harus memilih jalan antara meneruskan karir sembari ngurus keluarga atau berhenti dan menjadi ibu rumah tangga gitu, karena banyak kasus juga yang melanjutkan di antara keduanya. Nah, next insight nanti akan ada prolog, semacam puisi dari saya gitu ya. I'm going to touch a bit the work experience. Kemudian ada how to keep balance between career, family, managing time for career, social relationship, and family. Dan terakhirlah tips and tricks. Next lagi. Okay. Learn from the nature. Jadi karena saya suka banget sama Mata Najwa ya, pengen kayaknya ada prolog gitu ya. Jadi saya bacakan langsung. We live in the universe. We are the small matters within universe, but we are the universe. Universe, natures have patterns, lights and darks, days and nights, beauties and disasters. Analog from the nature, ups and downs are okay. It's a cycle. We learn and we improve. Women with their complexities and charms. Women, however, are same human like men. Humans start today with an end called dreams. Some are achieved, some are failed. But we get up, repair the strategy to be better. It's cyclic. In harmony with nature, then we shall be fine. Show respect and gratitude to nature and others. Ya, jadi kenapa saya taruh ini di prolog pertama ya? Karena buat saya tuh nature adalah mentor yang paling penting buat kita bisa lihat sehari-hari ya. Tadi Sonia dan Gladys juga mention soal mentorship ya. Selain manusia juga nature itu sangat bagus buat kita. Nah, nature itu kan mengajarkan kalau ups and downs itu hal yang lumrah ya. Jadi message-nya adalah kita nggak perlu bersedih untuk suatu kegagalan kecil, kegagalan besar, apalagi cuma kesedihan biasa, misal kayak putus sama pacar ya, ngapain sedih gitu kan. Alam aja bisa move on, apalagi kita gitu yang cuma debus titik. Nah, next. Nah, itu ada Walt Disney tuh, kalau nggak disebut dia nangis nanti ya. Walt Disney kan bilang, if you can dream it, you can do it. Jadi untuk bermimpi, punya mimpi itu juga sangat penting buat kita ya. Mimpi kecil, mimpi besar, jarak pendek, jarak panjang. Nah, dalam mimpi itu kan kita juga akan belajar mengenai probabilitas kehidupan, possibilitas kehidupan, juga ada doa dan serta usaha gitu. Oke, next. Ya, I'm going to touch a little bit about this. Akan ada 3 segmen di sini. Next segmen pertama. Oke, saya menjadi student selama 18 tahun. Akhirnya 2007 graduated dari ITB. Setelah itu nextnya, next, oke. Saya bekerja di tahun yang sama ya, 2007. Waktu itu saya belum lulus dari ITB, sudah bekerja di BP Indonesia. Dan apa ya, banyaklah perusahaan yang saya coba di situ ya. Bahkan pernah setelah bekerja dari BP, saya kerja setahun, itu serabutan ya, kerja di bidang entertainment, jadi penulis, jadi fotografer lah, desainer, sampai trader, semua saya cobain gitu ya. Karena saya apa ya, pengen memperkaya hidup saya nih. Bisa nggak ya saya kerja di luar pekerjaan migas. Nah, nggak lama setelah itu uang saya habis ya. Uang saya habis, akhirnya saya balik lagi ke dunia migas. Saya masuk ke Energi Mega Bersada 2 tahun. Dari situ saya lanjut ke Impex Masela. Dari Impex Masela saya stuck, nggak stuck sih. Karena Premier Oil ini nyaman ya, perusahaan yang sangat nyaman buat saya. 7 tahun bekerja sebagai single status, unlimited time to work and travel sebagai PE dan RE, exposure ke lapangan juga cukup banyak ya. Cuma setelah yang tahap ketiga ini, next, setelah saya menikah, punya anak, eventually with 2 kids sebagai RE, boleh next lagi ya. Pastinya ada perubahan di kehidupan saya ya, dari single yang bebas menjadi family gitu ya. Beberapa di antaranya itu satu, deficient in privacy, termasuk kurangnya waktu tidur ya, karena kan malam-malam anak-anak pasti bangun lah, entah minta susu, pengen sakit perut lah atau apa gitu. Dan privacy juga terganggu, seperti misalnya saya mau ke kamar mandi, anak-anak pasti nguntit, ketok-ketok pintu, segala macam gitu ya. Itu hal yang sangat berbeda lah waktu saya masih hidup sendiri gitu. Kemudian yang kedua, short time in community. Maksudnya kurang waktu nongkrong sama teman-teman. Nongkrong sama gunung juga berkurang, ke konser musik juga berkurang gitu. Yang ketiga, saya merasakan ada improvement di financial management. Karena kantong keuangan juga tidak ke kita saja, tapi juga ke anak-anak yang punya future lebih panjang dibanding saya. Nah, yang terakhir, walaupun dengan segala perubahan itu, saya tetap mempertahankan work performance untuk menjaga kredibilitas dan profesionalitas diri saya sendiri gitu ya. Tapi ada sedikit less affected. Kalau saya boleh cerita sebentar, itu kejadian waktu anak saya umur 11 bulan, selama 11 bulan. Karena kan perempuan itu harus rajin-rajin breast pumping ya. Di situ ada trik, a bit tricky untuk ngatur waktu antara meeting, tapi di waktu yang sama saya harus pumping, dan jika saya tidak pumping saya akan demam seharian dan segala macamnya. Kurang lebih seperti itu ya. Jadi time management, priority itu akan penting untuk kedepannya. Next. Ya. Oke, stop. Nah, how to keep balance between career and family. Ini tahapan pertama untuk menuju ke jawabannya ya. Manusia itu untuk saya ada 4 kategori kehidupan. Ada individual, dia hidup sebagai dirinya sendiri, dia hidup dalam era family, dalam work, dan social community. Nah, buat saya yang paling penting di sini adalah untuk mematangkan individual gitu ya. Before kita move on ke bigger social size gitu ya, individu kita tuh harus dipoles dulu lah intinya, begitu. Ya, next. Nah, potential conflict adalah suatu kepastian yang akan terjadi di intersection antara 4 segmen ini ya, antara individual dan work, individual dan family, itu pasti akan ada potential conflict. Ya, bagaimana cara mengatasi potential conflict itu? Coba di next, klik ya. Nah, balik ke soal individual tadi ya. Kalau buat saya yang saya rasakan, the key is to know ourselves with 3T ya, biar gampang diingat gitu, biar kayak band kan. T yang pertama itu true to self. Jadi kita tahu siapa diri kita tahu kekurangan, kelebihan, dan jika kita punya kekurangan dan jika itu sangat mengganggu, kekurangan itu kan bisa kita improve gitu ya. Jadi nggak didiemin aja. Dan true to self itu maksudnya jangan membohongi diri sendiri gitu. Kalau misalnya contoh gampang misalnya ya, kita tahu kita terlambat nih sampai kantor. Bos, sorry terlambat nih, ban bocor atau gimana gitu. Padahal dia kesiangan seperti itu ya. Padahal kita kesiangan. Hal seperti itu kan kalau misalnya terus ditumpuk bisa menjadi apa ya, big lies gitu ya. Walaupun pertama mungkin berniat white lies akhirnya menjadi big lies. Itu buat saya tidak baik ya. Yang kedua adalah tune the ego. Nah, ego ini kan masalah kita menang atau kalah dalam suatu perhelatan ya, bisa dalam suatu perbincangan atau suatu diskusi. Kalau yang dari saya pelajari, tidak semua perang harus kita menangkan gitu ya. Ada saatnya kita menang, ada saatnya kita mundur untuk mengalah sebentar, lalu untuk menang seperti itu. Jadi tune the ego itu juga penting. Yang terakhir adalah tackle the fear. Ya. Apalagi kita hidup di Indonesia, dari kecil saya merasakan banyak sekali ketakutan-ketakutan yang diciptakan oleh tradisi dan diciptakan oleh environment. Nah, kalau saya ya, misalnya saya takut apa ya? Oh, misalnya ada yang bilang gini, jangan ngomong sama si ini loh, nanti lo disemprot lo pasti dibenci bla 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 gitu. Terus saya mikir, masa sih kayak gitu? Coba saya hadapin. Nah, kalau saya dibanding untuk mendengar kata-kata orang, saya lebih suka menghadapi fear itu. Benar nggak sih yang dibilang orang itu seperti ini? Jadi tackle the fear itu juga part of individual management kita untuk menjadi lebih baik, siap untuk menghadapi potential conflict. Klik 2 kali. Tolong. Nah, back itu ada Buddha sama Sophocles, kalau nggak disebut ntar dia nangis. Jadi Buddha kan juga nyebut gitu ya, all human unhappiness comes from not facing reality squarely exactly as it is. Gitu kan maksudnya, udahlah jujur aja sama diri sendiri, ngapain sih ngebohongin diri sendiri, nggak ada untungnya gitu ya. Sophocles juga bilang, to him who is in fear everything rustles. Jadi sebetulnya fear itu nggak penting gitu ya. Ngapain sih bikin skenario yang sebetulnya bisa kita buktikan secara langsung. Jadi kalau bisa tackle the fear. Next. Nah, sekarang managing time for career, social relationship, and family. Kalau saya, I treat each aspect as if we run a company. They influence each other. Gitu ya. Jadi 4 aspek itu saya treat secara profesional tuh kayak run company. Next. Boleh next lagi deh. The key is to set purpose, value, priority, system, and be committed dengan apa yang sudah kita sudah kita plan ya. Ini kan juga mirip ya, sama dengan isi presentasi dari Sonia dan Gladys tadi ya, menyebutkan soal purpose dan a bit about priority dan support system. Nah, di sini kan juga sama ya, untuk memanage antara karir, keluarga, dan social relationship. Sebetulnya gampang ya, di kepala kita tuh sebetulnya sudah di-set sehari-hari ya. Misalnya aku mau lakukan ini dulu, ini dulu. Sebetulnya kepala kita tuh kayak tabel gitu. Coba diklik. Ya, sebetulnya kepala kita tuh udah punya set tabel kayak gini. Misal saya kasih contoh ya. Pada tanggal 1 Juni saya harus melakukan 4 decision. Nomor 1, bayar uang anak sekolah nih rutin 2 juta. Tapi saya nggak bisa bayar di rumah kan, karena saya kantor dan sekolah anak saya harus pakai cash. Nah, untung nih saya udah punya support system di rumah namanya Mbak Trisni. Nggak tahu dia ada di sini nggak sih ya, Mbak Trisni ya. Jadi Mbak Trisni yang membantu saya untuk menghandle semua kerjaan di rumah. Nomor 2 sampai nomor 4 itu decision saya kan. Ada 3 undangan datang bersamaan. Waktunya mirip-mirip. Yang pertama ada undangan reuni dengan teman lama. Tapi bayarnya 500.000 ya. mahal juga tuh gitu. Terus yang kedua undangan untuk lari bareng, abis itu makan malam bersama, cuma seperempat juta. Oke. Terus yang keempat, wah gratis nih networking dinner ya, asik juga, banyak bos-bos. Kayaknya bisa dapat chance untuk new job opportunity gitu. Mana saya pilih ya? Kira-kira mana yang saya pilih? Boleh deh, coba di chat deh. Yang menang dapat apa ya? Dapat foto apa sih? Boleh nggak coba di chat? Ada yang tahu nggak kira-kira saya milih nomor berapa? Oke, nomor 3, terus 4. Sampai 10 orang ya. Ada yang bener nggak nih? Oh, nomor 1 udah pasti dijalankan, nomor 1. Oke, oke. Oke, cukup ya. Oke, oke. Thank you. Nah, rata-rata milih nomor 4 ya. Nomor 4. Mau tahu nggak jawaban saya? Saya tulis di chat deh biar seru. Tat, 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 tat. Mana nih? Jawabannya adalah tada. Kok nggak bisa? Oke. Jawaban saya nomor 2. Kenapa coba? Jadi, begini. Kalau saya kadang melihat kesempatan itu nggak datang 2 kali ya. Opportunity itu kalau misalnya kita lihat harus kita ambil. Nah, kebetulan nih, saya emang nggak cerita ya. Kebetulan kolega saya ini teman akrab banget dari kecil. Ketemu dia 5 tahun sekali gitu ya. Dia tinggal di Amerika, nikah sama temannya di sana. Jadi kan saya kan akan sangat jarang untuk bertemu dia ya. Nah, nomor 3 itu bisa setiap bulan lah dikerjain karena teman-teman yang sport itu kan juga masih tinggal di Jakarta. Value is not an issue for me, so nomor 3 pasti saya drop. Memang nomor 2 dan nomor 4 itu susah ditentukan ya karena pertama gratis, ya nggak sih? Emak-emak apalagi senang dong for free stuff, right? Chance for new job opportunity. Well, bener nggak sih saya butuh pindah kerja sekarang? Aduh, bos, bukan gimana-gimana ya, ada bos saya di sini ya. Cuma ini kan sebagai contoh aja. Wah, tapi kayaknya itu masih bisa berulang sih bulan depan. Oke lah, aku berarti ambil yang jarang berulang. This opportunity is very rare, so I'm gonna take number 2, even though the value is 500.000 gitu. Jadi pada tanggal 1 Juni saya ambil decision nomor 2. Mungkin kalau kejadian ini saya belum gajian, saya akan ambil yang free. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, next. Kurang lebih kayak gitu ya. Jadi, sorry. Jadi, algoritma ini kalau bisa kita latih di pikiran. Jadi kita kalau misalnya punya set of tasks to decide it, itu nggak perlu ke Excel lagi, bikin tabel, terus sort by value or sort by purpose. Udah otomatis di kepala kita. Dan satu hal lagi, be flexible ya. Karena ya itulah yang kita lihat tadi kan, nature changes. Kadang teman kita bisa banget loh H-1 bahkan 1 jam sebelum itu meng-cancel. Sorry sakit nih anak gue. Kalau enggak, sorry gue kayak gitu. Jadi just be flexible, nggak usah baper, itu hal yang biasa gitu ya. Next. Oke, challenges-nya counter in balancing family and work. Kalau buat saya challenges itu adalah seberapa pintar kita bisa mengestimate, memanage, dan menghandle potential conflicts between 2 or more parties due to different thoughts gitu ya. Kalau itu terlalu ribet, coba saya kasih contoh yang lebih gampang deh, next. Oke. Ini saya ceritain aja ya. Daughter wanted to play together. Mom was work from home on her desk. The girl yelled and cried. I got her to talk, explain in a kiddie way. She's still angry, but flipped within minutes. In weeks of repetition, she finally understood and kept a distance when I closed the door during a meeting. Jadi intinya anak saya waktu itu nangis-nangis, minta main karena kan mamanya di rumah dipikir mamanya bisa main. Tuh. Tapi dengan repetitif pemberitahuan, jadi anak saya tuh paham kalau ternyata hal seperti itu tuh tidak baik gitu, dan dia tidak mengulangi. Oke, mungkin ada contoh kedua yang lebih ini ya, fix it or fold it. Jadi ceritanya tuh mom promised to go on a shopping after office. All of a sudden be done that she had to be work overtime. Saya dapat timpalan kerjaan tambahan, jadi saya harus lembur. Then came home late, no shopping of course. Well, did Mama broke her promise? Enggak dong, gitu ya. Jadi walaupun saya pulang, tapi saya membatalkan janji, saya mengganti janji itu dengan yang lebih besar gitulah untuk make up my mistake. Jadi during the weekend, klik lagi. During the weekend saya pergi belanja sama mereka untuk make up the broken promise. Nah, message-nya di sini next deh. Ya, sebetulnya kalau kita ketemu konflik seperti ini, kalau saya yang bermanfaat adalah good communication at the right time. Jadi kuncian banget ya buat siapapun dimanapun gitu ya. Good communication itu kita harus lihat juga orangnya siapa. Makanya saya bilang yang example satu a kiddie way gitu ya. At the right time kita harus milih waktu yang tepat. Jangan kita ngomong saat anaknya masih marah gitu ya. Nggak mungkin masuk lah gitu. Apalagi misalnya kita juga mau ngomong sama bos, ngomong sesuatu yang ringan aja, kita harus ngelihat kondisi dia. Ini bos abis meeting apa ya, kondisinya enak gak ya gitu. Kalau misalnya kondisinya bagus, then go for it to talk gitu ya. Terus satu kuncian lagi soal communication itu think before we speak ya. Kalau yang saya rasakan banyak miskomunikasi antar manusia ya. Terkadang kita nggak bermaksud untuk bicara yang menyakitkan atau apapun yang dirasakan negatif oleh lawan bicara kita. Tapi ternyata tidak seperti itu ya. Kadang tidak seperti apa yang kita pikirkan. Nah, jadi ada nih, bagus deh ya. Think before we speak. First think, is it true, helpful, important, necessary, and terakhir, is it kind? Gitu. Saya kasih contoh misal kayak gini. Ya nggak baik ya. Saya lagi kerja nih. Tahu nggak nih, si ini nih kemarin ya habis naik jabatan loh, mobilnya ini. Padahal kan dia gini gitu kan. Nah, hal kayak gitu kan banyak banget tuh kejadian di kantor ya. Di kantor lah seperti itu. Apa sikap kita saat menghadapi itu? Nah, kalau saya sih, saya dengerin aja, terus timpalin, oh gitu ya, oh ya, tapi udah, berita berhenti di situ. Nggak usah disebarkan, because it's not kind, dan itu belum tentu benar kan, gitu. Kalau contoh yang bagus misalnya kayak gini, Un, kemarin si ini bikin kue enak banget loh, gitu. Gue aja sampai nambah nih, nyetok sampai 100 hari, ntar lo kehabisan lo, gitu kan. Nah, hal yang kayak gitu kan satu, itu true, itu fakta. Kedua, kalau kita sebarkan lagi, it's gonna be helpful karena itu membantu teman untuk bisnis gitu ya. Important, of course, ini important karena ini sesuatu yang enak, kita harus nge-share ke orang lain. Necessary, ya 50-50 lah. And of course, itu kind gitu. Jadi think before we speak. Next. Oke, terakhir tips and tricks ya. Saya bikin figura cerita gini. Love what you do what you love. Itu juga salah 3 kali. Udah banyak kuncian-kuncian yang saya kasih tadi ya. Salah 3 kuncian yang penting buat hidup kita, mau perempuan, mau laki-laki, mau anak kecil, mau anak besar. Saya punya klik deh. Klik. Ya, namanya The Figuras gitu. Actually ini yang saya lakukan sejak dulu ya, sikap-sikap ini ya. Jadi pertama lah disiplin. Disiplin itu strong motivation, clear sense of purpose, but flexible gitu. Jadi ya mendisiplinkan diri lah untuk melakukan apapun. Kemudian positivity, be wise on news, nggak pakai baper, walaupun kita mendapatkan berita negatif dari manapun ya, because it will save our energy. Dan energi itu lebih baik kita habiskan untuk sesuatu yang positif, then we embrace positive vibes gitu. Dan integrity, doing the right thing even no one else around. Itu maksudnya kita walaupun nggak ada bos atau nggak ada siapapun, kalau kita memang harus melakukan pekerjaan ya kerjain aja. It's about honesty dan consistency pekerjaan. Kemudian ada G, itu adalah garbage in, garbage out. Nah, maksudnya sebisa mungkin perkataan dan pekerjaan kita adalah based on true data dan no hoax, no gossip, no other thing in gray area. Jadi lebih baik No, it's a must. Ya, based on true data. Terus ada huruf U, uncertainty. Well, kita hidup di uncertainty apapun itu ya. Nggak berarti dengan sesuatu kita melihat uncertain, kita mundur. Nah, yang paling betul buat saya, menurut saya ya, yang saya lakukan adalah we map the uncertainty. Kira-kira kita tahu nih di sini uncertainty-nya apa ya? Misalnya gini deh, mau belanja batik di Blok M. eh Masih ada nggak tokonya? Masih buka nggak ya? Gitu satu. Kedua, Blok M macet nggak ya? Uncertainty juga kan. Yang ketiga, tokonya masih punya batik si A nggak gitu, misalnya kayak gitu. Nah, kita pertama kan udah map uncertainty tuh. Habis map uncertainty, kita juga bisa telepon langsung kan untuk reduce the uncertainty. Batik masih buka nggak? Aku mau datang nih, mau beli. Oh, masih buka, Bu. Oke, bagus kan? Cek Google Map juga. Oh, macet nggak ya? Selesai gitu. Jadi itu is a very simple thing about uncertainties. Ujung-ujungnya kita bisa create some visions. Next adalah risk. Map the risk to create some opportunities ya. Kalau buat saya, setiap kita melangkah itu akan selalu ada risiko. Semudah ini misalnya, saya buka pintu nih. Sebenarnya di kepala kita udah ada algoritmanya ya, tapi saya ucapkan aja, buka pintu. Sebetulnya ada risiko, satu, saya kepleset mainan karena belum beres-beres mainan anak gitu ya. Risiko kedua, ya udah saya jalan biasa aja. Itu mid case-nya kan. Tadi low case, mid case-nya saya biasa aja, high case-nya anak saya datang dan meluk saya. It's a good thing in life, right? Jadi kurang lebih kayak gitu. Saya selalu memetakan resiko atas apa yang akan saya lakukan. Karena kalau kita sudah tahu risiko itu, akan muncul suatu opportunity yang mungkin orang lain nggak bisa melihat gitu. Karena kan menurut saya opportunity itu adalah nggak selalu datang gitu. Jadi itu sangat penting untuk risk the map, then we create some opportunities. Dan is for alert and awareness ya. Nanti eventually kita akan bisa untuk listen to signals from inner self dan juga dari outer. Dari outer itu maksudnya kita be open untuk opini dan ilmu dari luar ya. Cerita sedikit dulu, saya pernah ada masanya tuh menjadi orang yang merasa paling pinter gitu ya. Gue lulusan ITB nih, segala macem, gue cewek, gue kerja di minyak. Ada dong perasaan kayak gitu ya, and I'm gonna be honest, that feeling. Cuma justru hal itu membuat saya menjadi besar kepala, dan ternyata saya nggak pinter-pinter amat kok gitu ya. Setelah saya sadar, dan saya malah merasa kurang dan pengen belajar terus, justru ilmu itu datang dengan sangat cepat dan sangat tepat gitu. Dan we improve ourselves more when we don't know actually. Ya, yeah. Dan di saat itulah inner signals dari diri kita tuh mulai berdatangan. Begitu. Oke, terakhir S, simple. Less effort, less complex, and efficient. That's it. Klik terakhir. Jangan lupa klik subscribe, nggak klik terakhir dong. Kayak YouTube. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Jadi jangan takut melakukan apapun. Dunia itu luas dan menyenangkan. Begitu. Sekian dari saya. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you Kak Yunita for a very insightful session. Jadi tadi sempat, mungkin mau bilang juga sih sekalian Kak, kayak actually many of us women who are currently pursuing engineering degree, there are so many of us who wants to go to the field, but sometimes before we actually get and start the job, we have a lot of pre-thoughts, like for example, like how to balance the time between the work and the family, and then am I going to be away from family and not being able to watch my kids grow, or am I going to be valued less in the workplace once I get married or not? And those are the things that makes us like rethink our decision whether am I really want to go to the field, or maybe stay behind the desk in an office gitu. And I think Kak Yunita already gave us a very practical tips on how to manage the time between social relationship, career, and also having a family. And like for example, by showing us how to do the matrix of priority, setting up our priority. Thank you so much for Kak Yunita for a very honest, practical, and very insightful talk. And I guess now, because we are already had our three speakers, we are going to have the question and answer session. So for all of you who wants to ask to the speakers, you can write down your questions on the chat room. Start from now, and you can also say whom do you want to answer the question. So for those who have questions, you can write down your questions. Oh ya, dan boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia juga ya. Nggak harus pakai bahasa Inggris, tapi boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia juga. Atau kalau misalnya sambil nunggu, kita bisa ini tanyain pertanyaan yang udah di-submit ke G-Form-nya aja. Itu. Oke. Ini ada pertanyaan. Mau cek dulu nih, Kak. Kalau Kak Yunita, are you here, Kak?
Iya.
Oh, oke. Oke, Kak Sonia, are you here?
Yep,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, and Kak Gladys, are you here, Kak?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. I'm going to start reading the question that the participant already asked in the registration form, Kak. The first question is from Alamatul Fitria from Institut Teknologi 10 November. Ini untuk semuanya, Kak. The question is, have you ever been underestimated by men and how you conquered it so you can get equal opportunities in the workplace? Mungkin dari Kak Sonia dulu, Kak.
Okay. So the question was, have you ever been underestimated? And the answer is yes. Of course, I mean, especially pengalaman saya sih, like, if I compare myself to like the experience that Gladys has or Kak Yunita has, like I'm fairly a bit more junior than these people are, given that I went to school again and then I started my career. And so there is like this bias towards me because I'm not only young, I'm also female, and people would kind of have their own notion of how I would be, and like they have their own template of what my capability would be. And so the way that I would just push through that and kind of manage that is, well, I just try to have that level of keenness to learn. You know, maybe they are right. Maybe you are not an expert in that field yet, but you will figure out how to become one, and you would figure out how to meet the deliverables that is required for your role. And I think showing that attitude consistently will eventually turn people around. And then your work will speak for itself, honestly. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Kak. Kalau dari Kak Gladys, Kak, gimana, Kak?
Hi. So actually, the answer is quite similar with Sonia, right? So I'm pretty sure that it is common for, well, it's not common, but it's usually happen. It's usually happen if you just join the company, and then because this is a male-dominated industry, and then people tend to think that you are less capable than they are as a male engineer. So usually when you just started came to the rig site and then people look at you and then look at the female field engineer, they usually think that you are not really capable to do your job, like, because the first thing that you need to do is the heavy work, right? Like I mentioned earlier. So looking at the size of the body of the women, they probably look at, well, this tiny little girl is not, it's gonna be the burden for all of us. But it actually, later on, you can just show that you're willing to learn, you're willing to do something that you have to do, and then later on they're gonna trust you to handle the job properly, right? So just show that you want to do it, you want to learn, you want to do the job as you're supposed to, and later on they will eventually know that you can do your job, and then understand that you have the same responsibility, you have the same position, and they actually will let you do your job. I
Okay.
hope it's answer.
Okay, thank you Kak. Berarti just showing that we are actually competent in doing the job ya Kak ya?
Yeah, so jangan jangan merasa terpojokkan lah ya dengan pandangan-pandangan kalau misalnya kayak, aduh ini kayaknya orang ini nggak bisa ngerjain ini kayaknya cewek doang, paling minta tolong nih, nggak perlu merasa terdiskriminasi, tapi kayak ya show your eagerness sih sebenarnya, kayak nanti ujung-ujungnya juga mereka bakal respect dengan apa yang lo lakuin kalau misalnya emang lo memang bisa ngelakuin itu.
Oke, thank you Kak Gladys. Kalau Kak Yunita gimana Kak?
Oh, jatuh. Aku sebetulnya agak susah juga ya. Pernah nggak ya kayak gitu ya? Soalnya tuh aku tuh agak cuek sih orangnya ya. Jadi kadang mungkin orang mikir sesuatu, mungkin ada orang yang underestimate saya, cuma cuek aja gitu loh. Aduh, nggak membantu banget ya. Cuma kalau Gladys itu kan memang dia tough ya. Di environment-nya tuh udah pasti alpha male bertebaran lah. Aku udah kebayang ya. Di tempatnya Sonia juga aku pasti gak kebayang tuh, pasti banyak banget kalau di consultancy, pasti pressure sangat tinggi ya. Mungkin akan lebih berasa soal underestimation di sana. Alhamdulillah sih kalau di tempat saya ya, BP Indonesia, pernah di Kondur, Impex, well, gak terlalu berasa sih. Jadi kayaknya mungkin cuekin aja. Asal kita perform well, itu akan speak louder than any word sih. So itu aja, cuek and perform.
Oke Kak, mungkin ini nyambung Kak sama pertanyaan ini dari Kak Elisa, GBI Tamsir, ini di chatroom, mau nanya katanya ke Mbak Yunita, pernah nggak sih merasa dibedakan secara gender dalam mendapatkan kesempatan posisi atau jabatan gitu di perusahaan? Dan kalau misalnya pernah, apa sih Mbak yang Mbak lakukan gitu?
Jadi ketawa sendiri nih. Well, hal seperti itu pasti ada, menurut saya ya, mau dunia male dominated atau enggak, itu pasti ada tuh. Ya, seperti itu ya. Kalau yang saya lakukan adalah begini, kalau misalnya di sistem itu kita udah kelihatan kita nggak cocok ya, I'm moving to another system that fits me well. Itu sih, actually I did that and hopefully work, hopefully.
Sama yes. Berarti ya Kak, sama Kak Sonia waktu itu yang bilang minta pindah gitu ya Kak?
Right, ya. Yeah.
Oke, next question. Ini pertanyaannya aku pilih secara acak ya dari daftar pertanyaan. Ini ada dari ini dari Syafika Putri dari ITB. Mungkin ini nanyanya waktu dulu sebelum kakak-kakak ini terjun ke dunia kerja. How do you convince your parents that you want to participate in the men's world, in the man-dominated world mungkin ya, lebih tepat ya. Waktu sebelum terjun ke dunia kerja gitu. Karena some people are actually struggling about it Kak, karena yang namanya orang tua pasti, aduh jangan deh gitu. Kayak concern-nya banyak, termasuk juga kayak harassment dan segala macam itu jadi concern orang tua juga. Kalau misalnya mungkin jawaban dari Kak Gladys dulu deh. Gimana Kak?
Oke, sejujurnya kalau ini nggak kejadian di saya ya, maksudnya kayak
Oke.
dari saya sendiri kemarin nggak sempat ada isu kalau misalnya kayak harus convince parents yang kayak oke aku mau masuk teknik perminyakan nih gitu kan, kebetulan nggak ada isu itu. Nah tapi kemarin sempat juga ada yang nanyain masalah ini. Nah sebenarnya sih kalau menurut aku convince-nya itu tuh bisa kasih proven fact sih. Kalau misalnya kita ngelihat ya sekarang trennya juga perempuan juga udah makin banyak ya di dunia oil and gas. Terus kayak udah ada spot-spot yang kayak well reserved, misalnya kayak kalau misalnya mau kerja di belakang, misalnya kita kayak pengen kerja di oil and gas tapi nggak pengen ke field nih, misalnya orang tuanya concern ke field tapi kayak anaknya udah ngambil teknik perminyakan gitu kan, ya bisa aja kerja behind the desk gitu kan, kayak Mbak Yunita misalnya itu kan bisa, atau bisa jadi analis, atau sebenarnya kalau tertarik pengen ke field pun menurut aku bisa apa ya, bisa di refer ke orang-orang yang kayak emang udah pernah ke field dan kayak fine-fine aja, karena sebenarnya trennya makin kesini pun company juga kayak punya apa ya, punya number minimum yang orang sebenarnya kayak oke, kita company punya pengen diversity 20% misalnya. Jadi kayak dari 20% itu ambil aja satu orang yang kira-kira kayak bisa membantu untuk ngasih tahu loh nanti, kalau sebenarnya kan orang tua concernnya pasti kayak ada ABC gitu, mereka kayak concernnya realistis lah ya, nggak yang kayak aduh aku pokoknya nggak mau lah kamu kayak gitu kan, padahal nggak ada alasannya kenapa-napa gitu kan. Nah sebenarnya as long as we accommodate concern mereka sih seharusnya mereka akan lebih logical, jadi yang kayak uh, bisa mengizinkan lah ya. Kebetulan saya belum jadi orang tua jadi kayak lebih kurang tahu, cuman kalau dari sisi anaknya sih as long as kita accommodate concern orang tua itu dengan ngasih proven fact yang kayak kalau misalnya cewek nanti misalnya takut harassment nih, terus kayak ngasih tahu loh kalau misalnya kayak harassment itu tuh nanti ditindaklanjutin kayak gini, terus kayak ngasih data harassment yang udah sebenarnya trennya ya declining gitu kan, karena kayak policy makin strict, terus kayak penalti dari harassment itu gede banget kayak gitu-gitu. Terus kayak sebenarnya nggak cuman bekerja di bidang ini pun, di bidang lain pun tendensi harassment juga lebih banyak gitu. Contohnya misalnya pekerjaan di kantor juga ada aja tendensi harassment gitu. Nggak cuman specifically in the field kayak gitu sih. Semoga menjawab.
Oke, thank you Kak Gladys. Kalau dari Kak Yunita gimana Kak? Pernah sempat ada clash gitu nggak sama orang tua tentang kenapa sih mau teknik perminyakan gitu?
Aku sama kayak Gladys ya. Beruntung juga sih ibuku tuh ya ngebebasin aku ngambil apa aja sih, cuek aja sebetulnya gitu. Cuma pernah waktu pertama kali ke site ya di Papua, itu sempet apa ya sempet susah lah untuk saya dapat izin dia untuk ke Papua. Cuma ya speak aja lah, saya juga lupa speaknya apa, pokoknya bilang udahlah Bu, tenang aja, experience, duitnya banyak, udah tenang aja, udah gitu. Ya gitu-gitu deh, tapi ya gitu aja lah, kasih yang bagus-bagusnya aja. Nggak ngebantu banget sih. Ya eventually kan orang tua.
Halo Kak?
Kayaknya keputus ya?
Iya tadi.
Oh,
Oke.
Mbak Yunitanya? Oh, oke.
Ya, kayak freezing gitu. Oke deh, mungkin
see.
sambil nunggu Kak Yunita, mungkin Kak Sonia dulu.
I mean, I don't go to fields. I go to offices. But I guess maybe I don't know ya. I also didn't have that. Okay, mungkin dalam milih jurusan, I didn't have that problem of convincing my parents of their concerns. They had some concerns waktu when I had to when I chose to go to school in the US. They were concerned because it's like 1,000 miles away, right? 12 hours of time difference. But then kayak kata Gladys, like I just give them the solid facts to describe sebenarnya kenapa sih, why is this good for me, and why they should support me. And then in the end, they would support me anyways. Even kayak sekarang nih di karir gue sekarang, There were an instance like last year when I was traveling super heavily. Like my client was in Bangkok in Thailand, and so I had to fly back and forth every single week, right? Like every Sunday evening I fly out, and then every Friday morning I fly back here to Jakarta. So it was like quite tiring in terms of the travels. And obviously, as a parent, they're concerned. They're also concerned, like, what is the environment that I am in whenever I work. You know, when they hear my stories, kayak the client is being challenging, or kalau a client are like shouting at me, and then if they know about this story, they would be very concerned. Tapi again, I just remind them, like, this is good for me. I'm learning a lot, and also compromise, I guess, right? Like if you're going to be away from your parents because of your job or because of your studies, maybe you have that middle ground aja. Like you promise and communicate with your parents that, okay, if you're worried, then I will communicate a bit more often with you guys so that you guys are not worried. Maintain that relationship with your parents dengan baik juga sih if they are worried. So.
Oke, thank you Kak Sonia. Oke, ini
ya Mbak Yunita sudah balik tuh.
Iya, Mbak Yunita tadi sempat keputus, Mbak.
Iya, nama juga IndiHome. Ya Allah, nyebut produk kayak gitu.
Oke. Kalau ini ada pertanyaan lagi. Mungkin kalau Oke.
Wah, ini kayaknya dijawab sama Kak Yunita sama Kak Gladys saja.
Karena ini di lapangan ya. Di lapangan ya berarti
lapangan
ya.
Nih.
Oh, udah Gladys aja cukup ya.
Betul.
Apa nih?
Oke, ini first question-nya, apa kesulitan terbesar selama kerja di lapangan? Terbesarnya apa sih, Kak? Gitu. Mungkin dari Gladys dulu, Kak.
Kesulitan terbesar kayaknya awal masuk kerja sama akhir-akhir maksudnya kayak pertama kali masuk kerja sama sekarang itu beda gitu kesulitannya. Jadi kayak tiap tahun ganti-ganti gitu ya. Tahun pertama kita baru pertama kali masuk, terus kayak eagerness kita buat belajar tinggi banget ya. Kayak aduh pokoknya aku bisa conquer everything lah ya. Pokoknya kamu ngasih aku apa pasti bisa aku kerjain gitu kan. Terus kayak jadi kesulitan terbesarnya tuh justru lebih kayak adaptasi mungkin ya, karena kan semuanya baru ya, semuanya baru, pertama kali baru kerik, pertama kali ngadepin nggak ada sinyal, pertama kali ngadepin Direk itu ternyata orang-orangnya udah ada yang lebih tua, pokoknya kayak kita kerja sama all kind of people lah ya, kayak pertama kali biasanya kan kita kayak peers kita kayak seumuran kurang lebih gitu kan, sekarang kayak kita kerja sama orang yang jauh lebih tua atau kayak orang yang jauh lebih experience, orang yang semua tipe orang ada lah ya Direk. Nah itu tahun pertama mungkin kesulitannya lebih ke adaptasi. Ketika kita udah bisa adaptasi, tahun kedua kesulitannya lebih ngatur schedule. Jadi kayak kita udah standar, kita udah ngerti semuanya. Jadi biarpun kayak tahun pertama kita disuruh kerja 365 hari 1 tahun gitu ya, kita iya aja, soalnya eagerness-nya masih tinggi kan, kayak aduh pokoknya aku bisa disuruh ngapain aja gitu kan. Tahun kedua 365 hari itu udah terlalu berat nih kayaknya untuk dikerjain gitu ya. Boleh dong kita ngambil kayak 1 bulan 2 bulan off gitu kan. Jadi tahun kedua itu susahnya lebih ke scheduling gitu ya. Udah kayak aduh ya udahlah ya, turun dikit gitu kan. Nah, tahun ketiga itu susahnya mungkin lebih ke ngatasin bosan. Jadi kayak kalau misalnya di field kebetulan kerjaan yang dilakukan, kalau misalnya kita beruntung kita bisa dapat kerja, karena kan kita tuh bener-bener based on operation, based on client gitu kan. Kalau misalnya kliennya ternyata kliennya long term, terus kontraknya itu aja, haul-nya nggak ada problem, kayak semuanya sesuai plan tuh, yang kita kerjain tuh bener-bener kayak itu aja terus. Jadi kayak lama-lama kan bosan ya. Nah jadi tahun ketiga tuh lebih ke kayak coba cari-cari challenge kayak yang tadi aku bilang, cari-cari pengalaman baru, biar untuk ngadepin kebosanan itu sendiri sih.
Mm-mm. Oh, oke.
Itu aja, semoga menjawab.
Oke, mungkin ini langsung dilanjutin ke pertanyaan yang kedua, Kak Gladys. Kira-kira apa sih Kak yang paling memotivasi Kakak untuk kayak stay jadi engineer padahal sebenarnya jam kerjanya udah lumayan strict dan kebutuhan stamina juga cukup tinggi gitu?
Sebenarnya balik sih kayak apa yang dijelasin Sonia sebelumnya kan, purpose sebenarnya. Kalau misalnya kamu udah punya goal-nya apa, terus kayak kalau aku sendiri tuh kemarin sejujurnya kayak di field itu tuh kita bisa belajar banyak banget. Jadi kayak literally yang kayak kamu pelajarin dari even kayak kita udah 3 tahun di lapangan itu, kayak kalau misalnya kita ke field masih aja ada yang kayak, oh ternyata ini loh masih ada aja yang bisa kita explore sebenarnya. Jadi kayak yang bikin bertahan sih ya learning experience-nya sih, kayak aku ngerasa kayak kalau misalnya di lapangan aku masih butuh belajar banyak, sedangkan kalau misalnya aku udah pindah ke office kayak there is no chance for me to learn any of those knowledge lagi gitu, kayak nggak ada, kayak kemungkinannya kecil kalau misalnya kita buat belajar di office, karena kayak itu lebih applied gitu. Jadi kayak udah tinggal apa yang kamu pelajarin sekarang tinggal kamu eksekusi gitu kan. Tapi untuk kamu sebelum eksekusi itu kamu udah harus tahu ide-idenya kenapa, dasar-dasarnya gimana. Nah, dasar-dasar itu cuma bisa kamu dapetin di field.
Oke, berarti Kakak sekarang masih suka on off ke field gitu ya Kak?
Sebenarnya biarpun aku di office, aku job desk aku tuh sebagai support engineer. Jadi aku masih nge-handle field job gitu.
Oh, oke.
Tapi nggak ke field, tapi nge-handle field job.
Oh, oke.
Remotely dari kota.
Oh, oke.
Gitu.
Oke, thank you Kak Gladys. Mungkin buat Kak
Ya, sama-sama.
Junita, ini pertanyaannya mungkin bisa diubah ya, kayak kesulitan terbesar selama kerja jadi reservoir engineer kira-kira apa sih Mbak? Dan hal yang paling memotivasi untuk stay jadi engineer padahal jam kerjanya lumayan strict dan juga misalnya udah punya family, apa sih sebenarnya Kak kayak motivasinya gitu untuk stay?
Oke. Saya balik lagi ya, balik nge-recall tadi di slide saya kan di foto itu tuh figura tuh ya, kan do what you love what you do. Saya tuh suka sama kerjaan saya gitu ya. Emang senang aja playing with numbers, analytics, simulation and stuff. Mengerjakan uncertainties dan risks itu saya suka sekali gitu. Jadi kalau ditanya sticking ya karena saya suka ya. Kalaupun mau pindah kerja misalnya nanti ya akan relate juga dengan sesuatu yang dengan numbers dan analytics. Seperti itu. Nah, kalau soal jam kerja, kalau menurut saya itu tergantung office dan atasan masing-masing ya. Saya kan udah 8 tahun di Premier. Salah satu kelebihan Premier adalah fleksibilitas di waktu. Gitu. Jadi waktu tuh fleksibel lah buat saya di sana. Begitu. Terus apa lagi? Kalau misalnya waktunya nggak fleksibel, mas saya juga udah keluar kali cari yang lebih santai gitu. Apalagi udah emak-emak kan ya. Emak-emak tuh maunya online shop gitu. Tapi kan kerja juga, yang penting gimana cara kita memanage supaya tetap bisa online shop. Terus urus anak-anak sekolah, udah gitu school from home juga itu salah satu
challenge ya Kak ya?
Iya, challenge yang aduh sabar gitu aja sih. Saya cuma bisa bilang kayak gitu. Belum lagi ntar ngurus rumah bocor lah, pompa rusak, atau kasur bolong habis dilacak-lacak, itu banyak banget kalau udah berkeluarga. Perintilan yang nggak penting itu banyak banget, tapi ya happy aja lah. Bos kita kan juga udah punya keluarga, mereka juga paham utama kita lah keluarga gitu. Kalau punya bos yang bagus itu kunci lah pokoknya.
Okay.
Sayang bosnya udah leave nih, nggak denger nih saya bilang kayak gitu.
Oke, thank you Kak. Ini ada pertanyaan lagi dari, ini agak berat sih pertanyaannya, tapi lumayan interesting. Ini dari Raffi Ramadan Seba dari ITB. Pertanyaannya untuk semuanya, what are the best way to make a more inclusive environment without sacrificing the quality? Tuh. Mungkin ini kayak keadaannya kalau misalnya Kak bisa ngomong gitu ke any companies gitu untuk how to increase and the inclusivity tapi tetap without sacrificing the quality. Mungkin dari Kak Sonia dulu, Kak.
Oh, ya ini tuh problem yang like any organization face sih. Like I don't know, maybe especially di Islam, for instance, like a service company atau oil company by default tuh proportion wanitanya juga udah dari awal dikit ya. Kalau problemnya perusahaan kayak consulting firm yang typical McKinsey, the BCGs and all of that, or at the junior level maybe proportionnya as one like 50-50, right? Because you know it's an interesting job, it attracts talent. But eventually it narrows down, right? As you move along the career ladder, we have less and less female leaders. And I think if I can say anything, and if I can change something to make things more inclusive, I think I would like to, I don't know, I guess it'll be nice if the leaders and that are male realize what are the challenges that a female face, right? I think it's important to acknowledge kayak there is some social construct of like there's a social bias against female, even conscious versus unconscious, it's there. And I think every organization should be able to openly address that and openly acknowledge their shortcomings in that area. And then the second thing, I think, I don't know if you guys have been following the recent Black Lives Matter movement in the US, and there has been like some kayak apa cartoons online how describing like two houses where one is on fire and the other is not, right? And then the punchline of that is like, well, if you see two houses on fire, you would save the house that are if you see satu rumah tuh kebakar, satunya nggak kebakar, then you would try and save the one that are on fire, right? And I think same goes with the lack of female leaders in organization. I think there should be a bit more effort in strengthening the career path, or maybe elevating our female colleagues.
Halo Kak Sonia. Oh, Kak Sonia freezing ya?
And hopefully by elevating and giving that solutions, semua colleague bisa ngasih apa their best outcome when they are doing their job. So.
Oke, thank you. Berarti ngasih lebih banyak opportunity ya Kak ya untuk female to go to the top of the leadernya gitu ya Kak. Freezing lagi. Oke, mungkin dari Kak Gladys Kak, if you can say anything to any companies gitu.
Okay, so ini kayaknya agak berat sih Bang, agak berat sih. Cuman kalau in my point of view, karena aku ibaratnya masih di bawah lah ya. Kalau misalnya ada piramid, aku udah tangga paling bawah gitu ya. Nah, cuman kalau misalnya in my point of view, it's actually quite similar with Sonia. So the easiest thing to do, I think, is to give the same opportunity to women, because sometimes if you're working, like we all have our own perspective, right? For example, if you have one woman and one man, and then there will be a super quick job, biasanya tuh kayak kecenderungan tendensinya mereka akan milih, oke, kayaknya bakal milih cowok aja nih. Nah, itu kan bukan berarti si cewek nggak bisa perform. It doesn't mean that the woman cannot perform well, but she just doesn't get the same opportunity as male engineer, right? So if possible, the company can give like the same opportunity to everyone. Maybe we can have more female leaders in the future. Jadi kadang-kadang tuh kita tuh nggak bisa stand out bukan karena kita nggak punya capability-nya, but it's because there is no platform. Jadi kadang tuh justru platformnya gitu yang dibutuhin. Tapi looking at the tendency, maksudnya kayak setiap orang punya tendensi. Nah, kebetulan tendensi orang-orang ini yang kayak masih bisa dibilang kayak it's old way lah ya. Kayak kalau misalnya cewek identik dengan A atau cowok identik dengan B, which not 100% true. Nah, jadi itu mungkin sesuatu yang bisa coba itu sesuatu yang quick fix lah ya, sesuatu yang bisa di offer.
Oke. Thank you Kak Gadis. Kalau dari Kak Yunita gimana Kak?
Kalau dari saya bisa diulang lagi pertanyaannya nggak? Saya cuma takut salah menyampaikan aja.
Yeah, if you can say anything to any companies gitu Kak, how to increase the inclusivity in the workplace without sacrificing the quality.
Begini ya, gini kalau saya ngeliatnya begini, perusahaan itu kan mungkin ada perusahaan yang embrace mengenai female workers dan keseimbangan dengan male workers, ada juga yang enggak gitu ya. Kayak misalnya, jangan deh, nggak usah pakai contoh ya. Misalnya, ntar jadi ada produk nih, ya misal seperti itu. Tapi kalau misalnya saya menyuarakan itu ya, mungkin perlu dibuat suatu support system dulu ya untuk perempuan itu sendiri, untuk solid di dalam perusahaan. Tidak harus menyuarakan kepada atasan misalnya gitu ya, tapi kita solid secara technicality dan juga secara mentality, jadi saling empower. Justru itu menjadi para wanita untuk memboost up quality mereka sebagai worker. Jadi mungkin itu ya kalau pendapat saya ya. Dan saya udah melihat itu movement di company saya sih udah mulai ada tuh kayak gitu. Jadi apa ya? Mungkin Islam Bersih ada nggak sih, Gladys?
Ada
wadah kayak gitu ya?
Ada.
Jadi aku juga nggak tahu ujungnya seperti apa, tapi sepertinya seperti menginklusifkan diri. Kalau perempuan itu ada kita punya talent, kita punya power, kita punya potential, ya udah kita gerus di situ bareng-bareng kayak gitu. Support system buat perempuan.
Thank you Kak. And so I think that's the end of our Q&A session, and that was also the end of our Women in Engineering talk, what it takes to stand out in the men's world. And first of all, lastly, I would like to say thank you to Kak Sonia, Kak Gladys, and Kak Yunita for spending your time to share your experiences and your opinions about women in the workplace and managing time and between career and family. We do really appreciate it. And now, as the committee want to capture this precious woman, we would invite all the participants to turn on the camera, and we are going to take the screenshot.
Okay, ready guys?
Screen share
operator, can you turn off the presenting screen? Nice. Okay, ready guys? In 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Okay, that's gonna be it.
Okay, so for everyone, the SP Women in Engineering talk is already over. So for the online certificates for the participants will be informed through the email. And for the committee, can you show us the feedback link? For the committee, can you show us? Okay, so this is the feedback link. You can enter the link and then deliver your feedback for our talk. And the participants who are going to receive the online certificates are only those who fill out this link. And I think that's all. So let me represent all the committees to say thank you for all of your participation in this webinar, that we hope that you can take out a lot of something or even more from this webinar. And sorry for any mistakes, and thank you for all of your attention. And so before we close this event, so once again, I would like to say thank you for all of the speakers. And I'm Gita Putrustiani, officially say goodbye from this event, and see you in the next webinar. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, y'all. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Have a good one
Cheers.
too,
Bye.
Kak. Bye. Thank you, Kak Gladys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kak Gladys, Sonia, and
Thank you,
Kak.
Kak.
Thank you, Gita. See you.
You're welcome. See you.